Good to go. All right, I'd like to call to order the February 8th, 2023 regular meeting, school committee meeting. May we stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Take a moment of reflection. Thank you. All right, I will consider a motion to enter into executive session RIGL section 42-46-5A2 via roll call.
Travis.
First, do we have a motion?
We have a so moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
We got a second. Hit the roll.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Megan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Susan Kinane,
Aye.
and Mike Rocha.
Aye. All right, welcome to executive session.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We're not done. Okay.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Notification, there were no votes taken in executive session, and I will consider a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Minutes are sealed. Item 4, consent agenda. I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda unless anyone has any thing they'd like to pull out or chat about.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye. All opposed? Consent agenda passes, and we are up to item 5, spotlight. Summary report of bullying related incidents.
Jack is not here. Okay. I think
We can,
Jack was outside and took a phone call.
it's fine. We can table it. I mean,
No, we don't have to table it.
or we can come back to it. I mean, I don't want to. We could do other things while Jackson.
I went over it today, so I think it's good.
You want to put it up?
Put it up.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to talk that much. Twice a year, we are statutorily obligated to discuss instances of bullying and how those cases were disposed, and to anonymize, obviously, everything. And our school is so tiny that we don't even put grade levels in. We just put educational levels, primary, elementary. And so we had one claim of bullying at the middle school so far this year, and 2 at the elementary level. And Principal McKinnon does have a summary of each of those investigations and, just how, the disposition of them. And that's all we have to report. We do this twice a year, once in February and once in July.
Okay. I mean, I take this as good news. I just read all 3 of these. This is the extent of, I mean,
This is,
they called me bowling ball head when I was 5 years old. It was brutal. I had to get on the bus. It was terrible. I mean, I'm just saying, seems like we're doing a good job of making sure the kids are friendly to each other and intervening when they're not.
doesn't mean there aren't any other disciplinary issues that come up with kiddos, of course, but these are the 3 claims of bullying that each claim was investigated, and you have the dispositions before you. That's it.
Thank you, Lori.
No problem.
Any questions for anyone? Oh, we're going to see like something interesting. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
So let's hope not,
Very good.
Would.
Glad the kids are good to each other. Item 6, superintendent report.
All right, at the agenda meeting, we did say that between the budget workshop that went from 5:30 and beyond, and, Friday night memos and so forth, that for the sake of brevity and a shorter meeting, that I would forego my superintendent report. So I think I spoke enough earlier. All set.
You did your part. I will turn it over to Mr. McNamee for the finance report.
Well, thank you. So at this point, the finance report that you have is through January 31st. And at this point, we're looking at $132,000 surplus for the year. And basically that is, as I've indicated in the past meetings, is centered on our total purchased other services, which includes the tuition for Portsmouth High School. We had budgeted 87 students. We have 76 students there. We have a little bit of an increase in our CTE programs over budget to offset that. But right now, we're looking at a surplus in that line item of $131,967. So I think we're in pretty good shape as we go through the year. We've had some increases in maintenance expenses in the building. HVAC, we continue to monitor the boiler. We've had some expenses with the water system, maintenance on that. So we're continuing to have some expenditures in that area. But overall, there's nothing too extraordinary that's coming up on the expense side. So I'm optimistic that we'll be ending the year with the surplus. And you can see right now, the audit has been delayed again. But we should be seeing a surplus in the neighborhood of $300,000 for last year in FY '22. So
Sorry.
we're in pretty good shape. We'll talk a little bit later on about the capital reserve program. So, but right now, from last year and into this year, we should be in pretty good shape.
Thank you, Mr. McNamee. All right, we're gonna roll over to committee reports. And I'm gonna check with Sean just to make sure this is kosher. Sean, we have a couple of first reads. Can I just roll those into the policy committee report, or do I need to?
I would take those separately in your action items.
Okay,
The policy subcommittee report can cover those two, but obviously later on in the agenda, we'll have more lengthy discussion.
okay, beautiful. So just a generalization. So policy subcommittee report, Ms. Megan Gonzalez.
We met February 1st and it was a productive meeting. I think about an hour and a half, close to it. Are we pulling up the first read now, or is
No.
that, no? Okay, all right. So,
Later, under action items.
okay, so there'll be more coming later when we get to the action items, but that's really it.
Thank you. Portsmouth School Committee liaison. Nothing crazy to report. I'll say this, the Portsmouth Athletics continue to just exceed the expectations over there. It's every time I'm opening up the newspaper, somebody's finishing first, breaking a state record, or a team is at the top of the state. In terms of what's going on internally at the school, Dr. Kenworthy has named Paige Kerwin Claire the acting principal for the remainder of the year. And I believe moving forward, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, and moving forward. And then also to report, these impact the families and the students. So that's one, you have a new principal over there. And then Dr. Kenworthy also, Mr. Keith Corey will be the new permanent athletic director. He's taught at high school, youth, high school, collegiate level athletics, and recently was the athletic director in Johnston. He's been with the Portsmouth Athletics since the fall and really, proof's in the pudding. We're just going to keep riding this lightning of success over there for Portsmouth Athletics. So their next meeting will be next Wednesday, the day after Valentine's Day. And that's all I have. We have 8.3 Wellness Committee Liaison Report. Ms. Sue Canane.
Jennifer was very sweet and sat with me. We went over everything and we've set up all our meetings for the year. So we have our first meeting, which will give me a chance to meet everyone. I don't have a clue who anybody is. So I'm looking forward to that. And she made a great agenda and off we go.
Awesome. And 8.4 Town Recreation Committee Liaison Report, Mr. Michael Rocha.
Still have not met yet. Hoping to meet in February.
Okay.
January was canceled. December, there was no meeting and we're going for February.
Okay. Discussion items 9.1, presentation and discussion on the financial and educational impact of Newport County Regional Special Education Program dissolution.
Right here.
9.1?
10-1.
Oh, yes, actually, let's table 9.1 for a moment. We're going to go to public input before we do. Do you want to do public input? Don't you want to hear about the region first? 9.1, yeah, 9.1 is about the region, 10.1 is the public input.
I have different numbers than you do. Are we on the same?
Yeah, I have
9.1
what you
discussion
have.
items.
I might have inadvertently.
this says public
I have
input.
power to move
Oh,
things
sometimes
around.
things get moved.
Yes.
Scroll up.
I have my.
You want me to go down,
in
up?
Correct order.
I have what she has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So weird. We have the same.
This the published
Are
agenda.
you guys?
All right,
They're
so
in the correct order.
could I see that one?
Yeah.
So it's-
That's what it
I
is.
don't know what you're about.
9, so on the published agenda, Mr. Chair, 9 discussion items, 9.1, presentation and discussion on financial and educational impact of the dissolution.
Yes.
10 is public input.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
you're free to change those around if you'd like.
Well, and I know what Michael was saying, but I would like to hear the presentation and then we can have public input based on the presentation, I would think. Anyone?
And now I think they are fine. Now look, maybe refresh.
Do a refresh. All this is going to change on us.
Technology.
Seriously. Good until it isn't. Okay, now I think they're synced up, folks. All right?
I think so.
Yep.
Sign one now. All right, it's in there now. Am I don't think. Who's giving the present?
I think they're good. Oh, okay.
I was gonna say.
9-1 is where it belongs, right? Do you want to put up, do you want to look at the financial impact? Do you want to put up the
Please.
slide from the budget workshop?
I think that, and Sean, correct us if I'm wrong, that was the biggest thing we need to talk about, the public or the budget impact on this in public forum. Or an open meeting.
I mean, I don't know. So certainly the financial impact can and should be discussed. And the educational impact can and should be discussed.
Yes.
And I think the plan is to present both pieces.
Q&A or whatever.
Yeah, whatever the case may be.
Thank you.
This one? Yeah. So what we have is in the FY 23 year, the Newport County Region Special Education had assessed 315,000 for Little Compton. Of that 315, 94 plus another 2,200, 96.2 is being funded by federal grants. So that leaves us with 219,000 in the general fund in FY 2023. So what we've done is, from a budget standpoint, we're using that as a placeholder so that we have 315,000 that's going to basically cover any of the additional staff that we're going to need to integrate the program into the district. And at this point, we believe that that number is going to be sufficient to do that. On the revenue side, we talked about adding to the FY 24 budget $100,000 that will be coming out of the collaborative. And that will be in the form of a distribution of assets, which would be a $250,000 OPEB liability that will be taken off the books and distributed, which will get 5%, plus accumulated fund balance amounts. It does look at this point in time that the dissolution would not generate any excess liabilities over assets. We will have more assets than liabilities that will get distributed. That money will get recognized as income in 24, and that's going to be used to help fund the budget in 24. So it may be more than the 100, in which case we'll have more funds available in the event that we utilize more than the 315 to fund the programs that are coming back into the district. But at this point in time, it does look that we have sufficient funding to cover the programs that we're going to bring back into the district from the collaborative.
Beautiful.
And we'll refine this as we go forward, obviously, when we get
Yeah, when we know more.
solidify the hires and salaries.
It's a lot of unknowns. I mean, we know a lot, but there's some things that could change, swing in our favor, which would be great.
But we're very comfortable with the fact that we have sufficient, a placeholder in the budget
Yes.
to cover that. And certainly the impact is already set on FY 23 because we're budgeting the 315 and we're paying that number. And we got the grants already in place, so there's no impact on FY 23 at this point in time.
Have it, Jonathan?
Did you email that to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll just take a second to get it.
Email didn't get stuck.
I'm sure it's coming. Oh, is that undo send timer too?
What's that?
Is that undo send button? You gotta wait for it too. The email goes through. There it is. Here we go. Pull that up. Making me sign in.
Go for it. Technology.
Come on. You can do it. Go.
For the presentation, I
There we go.
I stuck it in directly, so
Sorry, I didn't have that ready there. But
thank you so much. Go into full presentation mode.
this is kind of,
Okay, thank you. A little bit different. Okay, thank you. So go to the first slide. Go back. Thank you.
oh, that one.
Okay, awesome. This is the presentation that was at the open forum. I had generated the slides and run them by Sarah Krager. She made some tweaks, and we presented this we have pretty much of a full house for our small concern here, definitely. That was a few weeks ago when we had treats and et cetera. Next slide. And I put up the school district's strategic plan and vision statement, and it underscores our commitment to equity and excellence in education. Go for it. Got it?
I did.
Still some lag time there.
It's counting up. It's just not actually changing.
Thank you for your forbearance. It's just not right.
You need some help with that.
Apparently. Does anybody know an IT guy?
I was going to say, the IT department, they're very
Oh,
responsive,
good.
but it has to be on a slip.
This is real life.
Has to be a
Try it.
submission.
Do you want me to plug in directly?
We're actually not hooked up for that right now.
Okay.
Everything's wireless.
Otherwise, you can go through it.
It's very different. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And this speaks to some of the concerns that have been raised. Students with individualized education plans as of June 2022. That was when Sarah gave me those census numbers from that date. Little Compton has 43 students ages 3 to 22 years old with IEPs. Wilbur McMahon students with IEPs and all current LC high school students with IEPs enrolled in area public schools and are impacted by the possible dissolution of the region. Next. Thank you. Students in extended school year programs, ESY, and that is a service that is in some students' plans. And that calls for individualized and sometimes group programming. And so we have a couple of kiddos who will be doing both. And that will happen seamlessly here in Little Compton. And if the student's placement now offers ESY and that student would go there anyway, that student will continue to experience an extended school year in that district. So we do have students in other districts. We can definitely service some of our extended school year kiddos here on site, and we can also service some of those kiddos next door in Tiverton. We've already made those arrangements. Students in out-of-district placements through tuition-based cooperative agreements, students in regional specialized programming will remain in those programs. And that was discussed at length at the open forum with some of the families that this would apply to even. And they were, assured of continuity of services of the highest quality. And Sarah Krager, the current director, and I will be working with our new director to ensure that that happens. Go for it. The most complex piece of this dissolution is localizing our regional integrated preschool. It is a highly successful program. Anyone whose children has gone through it just speaks so highly of it. If you remember Travis and Mike, we did have some parents who just, waxed poetic, gave it effusive praise, mentioned the 2 staff members. Those 2 staff members will be feted by the Lions Club as Little Compton's Teachers of the Year. So that is Carla Woodhouse, teaching assistant, and Kim Smith, and they received high praise that night. And so we will continue with the integrated preschool. We already manage the CRP, the Consolidated Resource Program. I do all that work. And so what I've teamed with Sarah in the past on that particular item, and I'll just assume that moving forward. All current regional employees would be absorbed by the district they work in. Regional employees would then be working under their new district's collective bargaining agreements. Thank you. Staffing continued. This also speaks to some of the concerns. We will localize the following regional positions, and that's part of the Little Compton School Department's $315,000 annual contribution. We're 5.4% of the region. We have a part-time school psychologist on staff here, part-time social worker, part-time speech language pathologist. They're all currently here. They have office space. And that will not change. We will just take their salaries on to the local side, covered, under that 215 and then $100,000 or so in IDEA funds. We will add either a 0.6 special education director if that person is okay with also subsuming some other administrative and supervisory duties like the early childhood coordinator screener responsibilities that Anne-Marie McAndrews right now holds those. We'll have to localize that. So if we have a part-time director who is willing to take that on, it'll be a 0.6. And that person might also be willing to engage in some of the CompuClaim and, the third-party billing activities. The plan B is a 0.4 special ed director. If, we do have people who want to work part-time. They are retired in Massachusetts or they're retired in Rhode Island and can work 90 days. And that may be extended by the legislature. So if, another configuration would be someone 2 days a week rather than 3. And we would add a part-time clerk, possibly someone from the region who's currently there. That person has made it clear that she would avail herself of our services, of her services, in all 3 districts. And so that is also an option. The region has incredible staff at Oliphant in Middletown. And some of them will be sort of, floaters, if you will. And so we have some options there. And that part-time clerk would also include some of the Medicaid reimbursement work. The finances are here. Middletown's contribution is almost 3 million. Tiverton's is $1.5 million. Ours was 315,000. And I have an asterisk there because current Newport County Regional Special Ed program members are below, but Portsmouth was the 4th member and it withdrew in 2015. And by all accounts, this current dissolution process is, everyone's learned from 2015. I was the principal next door when that occurred. And it was sort of sudden, and abrupt and shocking. And it turned out to be great for Portsmouth and sort of what we've gone through, a pretty compressed timeline, decompressed now. And, we're going to land on our feet and our children will have the highest quality educational programming that we can provide. Next. John's already done that. We feel not only will it be cost neutral, we're going to likely gain one and done $100,000 boost, given some of the monies that will be reallocated to the member districts. Go for it. Here's the timeline. It's pretty tight. And the last day of the region will be June 30th, 2023. And I think we're at that point right there. School committee vote, and then we will begin the process of hiring a part-time director. Is a plan B includes sharing a director with another district? I've had some directors reach out to me, and that is a plan B. But we are definitely being flexible regarding any contingencies that we may have to actuate regarding this transition. And we are ready, and we are already, improving processes based on some of the feedback that came to us at the open forum. We already have all those parents who came to the open forum will get an invitation to be our new Little Compton School Department Special Education Advisory Group. And because they were so engaged and so authentically passionate about special education services for their children and others with vulnerabilities. So we already have our advisory board.
Beautiful.
They wouldn't leave the room. It was a wonderful, wonderful evening, I have to say. Any questions or concerns?
The only question I would have is, and I should have asked under enrollment, you have 17 kids in the pre-K.
Yeah.
Right now. Yep, we have, I believe, 7 in the morning in preschool and 10 in the afternoon in pre-K.
Slight uptick from the 6 last year.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, my guy didn't have
COVID just-
a few kids. This year, it's great.
Just annihilated our numbers.
Yeah.
But we can go up to 15 in the morning, 15 in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
The district never has gone that high, but who knows if we offer a tuition rate, et cetera, for peers. Our out of district placement policy, school committee, we might get more kiddos. But we're at 17.
Yeah, big number.
So the morning is different than the afternoon.
Yes, the mornings are little 3-year-olds, and then the afternoon is our 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
So cute. Are adorable.
Lori, John, thank you.
Oh, our pleasure.
At this time, I'd like to move to item 10.1, public input and topics for future agenda items. Is there any public input? Go ahead, sir.
I was surprised to see special ed up to age 22.
Yes, that's federal law. Mhm.
How does that work? I mean, that's like college age.
Based on their needs, Roger.
Based on their needs, life skills and support, to be independent and so forth.
My other thing is, this is just a request that your executive sessions be held after the regular meeting. Now admittedly, those are over and above the time it takes to have the meeting, so you're going to get home later. But now by doing that first and delaying the start of the regular meeting, all of us, well, us today, all of us end up getting home later. So as a request, you don't have to answer now or anything. Schedule the executive sessions after the close of the regular meeting. That's it.
Anyone else? Roger, thank you. All right, let's move down to item 11, action items. 11.1, consider, discuss, and vote to dissolve the Newport County Regional Special Education Program. I will ask for a motion.
So
Do I have a second? We have a second. And can we vote by roll call, Jen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Travis Lottie,
Aye.
Megan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Susan Kinane,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
Thank you all. The motion carries. Item 11.2, consider, discuss, actually, it's a first read. We're not voting on anything on this. It's a first read. We've got a couple of first reads coming down the pipe here, folks. The first one is the civility policy, and I'll turn it over to Miss Megan Gonzalez for this.
And I'm going to turn it right over.
I sit on the EVAC Executive Board, and that is the East Bay Educational another collaborative. That's more professional development collaborative than anything else. It's amazing. And they were looking at all of their policies that they were missing or needed to be upgraded. And I think there were about 8. And so at least 8. And so I took all of our policies and I sent you a listing, Megan, of policies that were very much like the ones that EBEC added and or revised, and policies that we just didn't have. And there were several: hazing, civility, I think it's Ben Scungio who represents EBEC, and he's the one who wrote many of these policies. And I think districts throughout the state are pretty much doing the same thing, incorporating easing, civility, and some of the more, the more complex issues that we discussed at that meeting. And those first reads will come up here in a month or so. So I think it's just a common sense policy around discourse, when it comes to interactions with elected bodies or administrators or anyone in the educational community. And I'm reasonably certain that the passionate discussions of the past few years at town council meetings and school board meetings, and throughout the country, throughout the world, this is just a reminder to be respectful and collaborative, and to be active listeners. I think it's just all the things that we're teaching our kids. So part of me said, did we really need a civility? Sitting on the board of, when it first came before me, I'm like, yeah, I think, yeah. It's up to the policy subcommittee, and it's the same one that EBEC incorporated into their policy canon. So that's all I have.
Go
ahead.
Can we put that up so people can see that?
Jonathan could do it.
I was just logging in. I didn't have I was on the public view there. There we go.
I'm sure they kind of told us there's no copies of this as of yet, right? Because it's in draft form.
Yeah, it's just the first read.
Yeah, it's
Pretty short.
anyone with questions, comments, input? If not, then we will move to item 11.3, first read on the food service policy, which I'm excited to see as a former food service. What do we got going on here?
I can put that one up, Jonathan.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. Megan, do you want me to?
Yeah, please.
It's all good. So this is an existing policy that we have added some content to, and it basically removes students from all communications around meal debt, and because those conversations are never appropriate. Meal debt is an adult-only issue. It has nothing to do with kids. And so this just sort of supports that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, should we put that in there? It's sort of a, come on, kids shouldn't be involved. But when you have new employees coming in from food services and they haven't had a chance to get the policies related to, they're servicing our kids in the cafeteria. We did have an issue this year that was brought to my attention. So I said, you know what, we need to add this and ensure that all of our third all of our vendors are aware of our policy. It was a practice in the past. Kids will never be involved. Sometimes, they were and they shouldn't have been. There was no ill intent. And so now it will be codified in this policy.
One last thing.
One of the reasons why I would love universal free lunch here. As I mentioned at the budget.
I know.
Obviously, we'll clean up the formatting.
Of course. Any questions, discussion on that one? All right, 11.4. This sounds fun because we're about to transfer some money, I believe. Consider to vote transfer $400,000 from the general fund unrestricted fund balance to the capital reserve fund balance to fund capital improvement projects subject to housing aid at the school. And I believe Mr. McNamee is going to.
Take it away. This is good
He's
stuff.
waiting in the wings. Look at him over there.
So in a way of background, the school committee submitted a stage 2 application to RIDE, which was just under $5 million in proposed renovations to the school over a 10-year period. RIDE did approve that. Their approval allows us to get a housing aid, which is the minimum is 35% of whatever we spend. So we spend $100,000, RIDE would give us $35,000 back. And basically what you do is you set up a capital reserve fund, and this kind of feeds on itself so that you have a revolving fund. So as you do more improvements, you get more housing aid back. In the past, we used this technique to fund the hardening of the entrance in the school, and that was a $500,000 project. We did a transfer from the general fund to a capital reserve fund, and we were able to fund that portion of it. So what we have now is we have in the Newport County Regional, we have Medicaid funds that we would recognize revenue on every year, but the money was left over at the collaborative. So it's included in our fund balance, but we didn't have the cash. The cash was sitting as a receivable from the collaborative. And at one point in time, way back when, they wanted you to keep a certain amount of cash in there for operating purposes. So most districts left that money in there, as we did. In light of some of the changes that were going to occur and the fact that this number had built up to over $250,000, we thought it was an appropriate time to get that cash back in. And also, there was a distribution of the FY21 fund balance from Newport County, which amounted to $74,450, which we're recognizing as, we'll recognize as income in the current year. And so the combination of those two items, although we're only taking $229 out of that receivable, we still have a little bit more money over there that'll be coming back. So that allows us to take $300,000 out of our fund balance and move it over to capital reserve. Of the 303, 229 is really coming out of prior fund balances. The 74 will be recognized in the current year, and we'll make that transfer. So it'll have a net impact of 0 on the fund balance. So it's really taken 229,000. Right now, we had, I believe it was around 213 was the accumulated fund balance. As of the end of the year. And we'll be adding another 317. So we're going to be up to 5 and change on the fund balance. So that's getting a little bit high in terms of leaving that money as an accumulated. So we're at 270, excuse me. And if we add the 317, which looks like we'll be close to on our FY22, that'll give us around 588. So we're going to be taking roughly about 229 out of that 588 and transferring that over. So the 303, if you look at the handout on the second page, what we're able to do is to leverage that 303 and the proposed projects, once they hit the $500,000, so it's accumulation of a number of projects. We're also subject to get incentive bonuses from RIDE. So there are 5% for health and safety. There's another 5% for educational enhancements. But RIDE does limit the additional bonus incentives to no more than half of the original base amount, which was at 35%. So at the end of the day, we could get 17.5% of bonuses. So I'm projecting that we could probably get close to 15% bonuses, which means we'd be at 50% reimbursement. So the $500,000 project that we would be putting forth, we get 250 back. So we would be spending 250 out of that 300,000, leaving some money in there. And more than likely, depending how this year goes, I may come back and say, let's put some more money aside for some capital improvements so that we can kind of leverage on this. And especially with the incentives that we have currently, and those incentives have to be committed to by December of 23. So these projects we're anticipating would be projects that we would get done during the summer months.
Okay.
So overall, it just allows us to take advantage of the housing aid that's available. And we do have sufficient fund balance, I think, in order for us to start to spend on the capital. We got to realize that it was almost going to be going on 10 years since the renovations.
Right.
Yeah.
Did here. So things will start to need to be upgraded. And that's why in the 5-year plan, we've got, some close to 5 million. The town council certainly had approved that as well. We don't anticipate that we're going to spend the 5 million, but more that we can get over there and spend on capital. I think the better we're going to be. One of the things we're going to be doing with the town is the town wants to put a parking lot in the back. If we get care and control of that parking lot, which we'll enter into arrangement, we then can submit those improvements for reimbursement. And then we can lease it back to the town for $1 a year so that we can get housing aid on it. So we're working on those things.
Big discount.
The solar would be another possibility where we can get housing aid on that if we go that route, assuming that we own it. So there are a lot of opportunities here, but we need some cash to
Make it happen.
make it happen. So
We'll keep pursuing the opportunities, I'll tell you that. Does any, go ahead, please.
For the new members, I will include the project timeline that has been established. So this has been a 3-year project, getting the architectural engineers in here, scoping things out. And so we have this year, the parking lot, the gymnatorium, kitchen equipment. We do have a cafeteria that was built without a dishwasher, and consolidate an art room and create additional spaces up there, office or classroom. And next year, reimagining the center, in a grander scale. In 2025, new interior to exterior components and finishes and outdoor learning areas, possibly in the courtyard to nowhere. That's what we call it. And I'll give you a tour from the members. And then 26, there are more projects, 27, and et cetera. So it all adds up to about 5 million, and it'll be in your Friday night memo. The rest of you, know, you've seen this list, come to meetings and so forth.
Question. I know you just went down the rundown of what's coming. When is the fob system for the doors? Is that, I knew you just ran down a bunch of years. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go with,
Just in the capital.
well, yeah, some of the security plans. I think the bigger door upgrade where we kind of go through the whole security system was, we had talked about for 24, but we had also talked about putting some of the
Right.
the smaller pieces, getting the remaining doors in the back and everything done this year. That's
I
coming
have that.
soon with a little asterisk next to it. It's mostly still supply chain issues that we're waiting on. Most of the stuff we need is available and easier to get nowadays, but not all of it.
Okay.
So actually, I haven't talked to the guy in a while though. I'm gonna make a phone call tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, just putting it out there.
Yeah, we'll get housing aid for that as well. Too.
Keep finding ways so we can capitalize on that housing aid.
Absolutely.
Like that little wrinkle, like you said, we do the park, we lease it back, we get the aid. I mean, those are the nuances and how we can capitalize on the challenges ahead with the finances.
We get the big bucks, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
I will,
Go ahead, Mike. Oh, go ahead, please.
So if we transfer this 3030 over, that's going to be restricted to the capital. That's capital improvements only, correct?
We're gonna put it in a special revenue fund. So ultimately, the only people that can unrestrict that would be the school committee.
Okay. And so this would be, we're starting with 0 in this. So 303 would be the balance that would be in that
That would be the beginning balance, right?
303. Okay. And there's no limit on how much we can put in an account like that, as far as how much we can put into a capital reserve account, or is there?
Well, so over the years, the budget committee has always said that, you know, they don't like to see a big fund balance. When I go back to prior to the renovations, we had probably $1 million something in a fund balance. We then used that money to fund the mods and the transition to the, to the new school. So that kind of wiped out our accumulated surplus. So we've never been in a position to really start to build up on that number. We always felt as though that we should have some money in reserve, especially for special education expenses that would pop up. But not having a capital and a 5-year plan and a capital replacement plan funded was always an issue here. And you can see that at town hall where, you know, that went way too long before improvements were made. They went and borrowed the money to do that. What I'm trying to do here is to kind of leverage our surpluses and use that for capital here in the district. So.
Just out of curiosity, the account that sits in, what kind of interest does that bear?
Well, what happens is that's all accumulated as part of we have one account with the town.
Yes.
And so the town manages the amount that comes over. So even though the cash is in there, the town will invest it and would only leave enough in for working capital amounts. So they are getting a little bit better than the rates have come up over the past year.
Just curious. I mean, it's the incentivization here that they're going to, you know, they cover half the it's hard to, I would say, you know, like Warren Buffett says, it's like the best investment advice I can give you is pay off your credit card. I can't get 18% a year. You know, so it's the same thing here. It's like, it sits, okay, it's there. But if we put it to good use, we're going to get credited. Half the monies we're putting down is coming back to us. So it incentivizes us to participate rather than just, you know, count our shekels like King Midas.
This is the first time that there is a capital improvement plan, a long term.
In many districts and are doing this. So there is some talk about extending the incentives, which are going to sunset at the end of 23. But at this point in time, we want to get a few projects done so we can maximize the incentives before 23. And depending on how this year goes, we may be taking some money, additional monies out of that and putting it over. But I was waiting really for the audit report to come out, but at this point, there's some issues over at the town that, so it should be out at the end of February, but we're in pretty good shape in terms of our numbers. So.
Understood.
So I would need a motion.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to ask, do I have a motion to transfer $303,450.52 from the general fund, unrestricted fund balance to the capital reserve fund balance to fund capital improvement projects, subject to the housing aid at the school? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Jen, can we vote by roll call?
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Megan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Susan Kinane,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
Beautiful. Motion carries. Thank you, John McNamee, for your diligence. Continue to find those dollars where we can capitalize on it, okay? 11.5, consider vote and discuss to approve any requests or information from the administration and or legal counsel. Does anyone have any requests?
Just a follow-up
Sure.
on we had talked about going back to Zoom. Where were we at?
Yes. We can go back to Zoom. However, we're exploring if you want to make public comment, you got to be in public here. So if you want to watch it, and the reason I'm firm on that, because, I had clients that flew from New Mexico to do the short-term rental to speak their piece at the council. If you're that vested in the educational outcomes, you can make the time to be here for a meeting. Otherwise, I'm absolutely fine with everybody watching. But this idea that it's going to be, keyboard warrior making comments, plenty of good seating available next to Mr. Lord. Come on down. We welcome your input. So in terms of providing the Zoom, we have this, but if we did Zoom, no public comment. I mean, it's just going to get out of hand.
Travis, I'm going to just respectfully say I'll check into that to make sure that.
Check into that.
But, if we can, certainly. I don't want to have to get us in a position where we might be differentiating between folks who can't come out to the public meeting and then circumventing there.
Correct.
So just before we make that policy here, we'll just.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not. So the way I see it, Sean, we give them this. What do we need to do more?
That's what the town does right now.
Yeah. Until the town of Little Compton openly accepts open forum, Zoom, Q&A for their meetings, I don't see why we should be subjected to that when we're providing the same feed that every other public meeting in this town is providing. If there's something beyond that, we can explore, but I would like to be consistent with what the council is doing as well.
I'm saying I'll explore that and come back. Just to make sure we're doing that correctly.
Please, absolutely.
One other thing is our subcommittee meetings have to be televised, or how does that, are we required to televise that? Does anybody know?
They ever have to?
No.
I think we're not, if I may, we're not required to televise anything, just as sort of practice. The main school committee meetings have always been recorded. Before we had a camera system, it was really Roger who did that pretty much, I think, and shared the videos back to us. But it's really the regular school committee meetings, that meet as full bodies get recorded. Any other ancillary ones typically do not.
And we're not required to do that.
There's no requirement to televise the meetings under the OMA. The only requirement is notice at the Secretary of State's website and posting on the buildings.
Minutes, right?
Yeah, well, and the minutes, but I'm talking the agenda, so people have an opportunity to show up at the subcommittee meetings or at the regular school committee meetings.
Okay. I'm good.
All right. And actually, Travis,
Please.
one thing. I did want to give a little shout out to Susan. I saw her at the School Committee 101, Rhode Island Association of School Committees. And she was
Awesome.
learning all of her new stuff.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
A little biased as a presenter there,
You
but
did a lovely job.
I just wanted to not let that go unnoticed. And that's great to see our school committee members are partaking in that professional development.
Terrific.
Thank you for making that note, Sean. Thank you, Sue. Thank you for attending that. And was that on a Saturday?
It was.
Did you?
I saw that. I was like, that is a tough sell.
That was an all-day.
I'm glad I did
activity.
mine to be in the Zoom, but that was a,
I only
I'm
went
glad you
because
partook. There's a
I
lot of
knew Sean
information there.
was talking.
All right, I will consider a motion to vote and adjourn, or consider a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.